Namaste, everybody. Thank you for joining the second video in this series. Let me start by thanking everybody for the encouragement that I received after posting the first video. There are people who've pinged me on social media, few maybe who've met me. The amount of encouragement I've received is humbling and scary. There are people who've given me suggestions on how to improve, say, the video quality, how to get the best video quality, how to get the best audio quality, what sources and references can I refer to as part of this series. As I said, humbling and scary because of the expectations. I will make my best efforts to live up to your expectations. Now, coming to today's topic, I initially started, okay, let's say books and profits. I thought I would be able to cover this topic. Once I started, I understood that not only will I not be able to cover profits, even in the books portion, I will probably be able to cover the initial portion only. This is, I think, another example of the depth of information, the depth of knowledge that is actually available as part of Sanatana Dharma. Now, I did mention in my earlier video that I am a corporate citizen, so to say. Now, where a corporate citizen is present, Microsoft PowerPoint cannot be far behind. So here comes Microsoft PowerPoint. So let us get started with the literature of Sanatana Dharma, which without doubt is the most extensive in the world in multiple senses of that word extensive. As all of you would be aware, the Vedas form the foundation of Sanatana Dharma. If somebody has a concept, thought, practice, ritual, idea, which is not conforming to what is present in the Vedas, that cannot be called Sanatana Dharma. Call it by some other name, cannot be Sanatana Dharma. So this statement, which says Vedokhilo Dharma Moolam, Vedaha Akhilaha Dharma Moolam, basically means that the root of Dharma is the Veda. Basically, that is the meaning. Now, the word Veda is derived from vid, the root vid, which can mean to know or knowledge. The Vedas propound something called Brahma Vidya, especially in the Upanishad, towards the end of the Vedas, there is something called Brahma Vidya. Now, Brahma Vidya, I'll not cover or I'll not touch upon what Brahma Vidya is at this point of time. However, Brahma Vidya is said to be that kind of knowledge, knowing which one does not need to know anything else. So, that is the kind of knowledge that is present in the Vedas. Now, let's look at some numbers. Everybody knows that there are four Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Samaveda, and the Atharva Veda. Now, the question is, how many mantras or shlokas are present in the Vedas? I've heard Saptakoti, or for example, 7 crores or 70 million mantras. Now, today, when you look at the printed material, obviously there aren't so many mantras. There aren't 70 million mantras available. So, question is, where are these? Apparently, so now there is something called a shakha. The Veda has something called shakhas, certain subsections called shakhas. Out of 1100, which which were, say, classified or codified by Vedavyasa, only 10 are available today, out of which only 2 are almost complete. So most of the corpus is actually not available in today's general world of humanity. This is divine knowledge, so it is never lost, but these are not accessible for our immediate use today. Now, there is also a statement which says Anantavai Veda. The Vedas have come from God. Knowledge is limitless. So, whichever way you look at, the corpus of the Vedas is huge. Whether you want to call it huge, limitless, up to you. Now, there is a very important term concerned with the Vedas called Apaurushaya, which basically means impersonal. You can take it as meaning not created or written by man. Vedic meanings of words and colloquial meanings change, in fact, quite radically in some cases. So, Purusha here does not mean a man. Purusha basically means a living being, or more specifically, a human being. The body is said to be a seti, a pura. So, Purusha basically can refer to a living being or to a human being. So, Apaurushaya basically means not created by a human being. Now, which basically brings us to the question, if not created by a human being, where have the Vedas come from? There's a saying which says, Yasya Nishvasitam Veda. which basically says, uh, you may have heard of the terms Uchvasa and Nishvasa. Uchvasa is intake of breath, inhalation. Nishvasa is exhalation. So the Vedas are said to have been exhaled by God in a way, figuratively. So they have come directly from God. So that is the reason they are said to be apaurushaya, or not created or written down by a human being or human beings. Now, who are these mantra drashtas? What does this term actually mean? Now, if you look at human beings or living beings or human beings in general, there is a concept, basically states of consciousness. This is not restricted to followers of Sanatana Dharma, but to any human being. We have three states of consciousness: Swapna, Sushupti, Jagrut. Swapna basically means dream state, Sushupti means deep sleep, and Jagrut basically, Jagrut or Jagruti basically means the state of being awake. Please don't think about daydreaming. That is part of the state of being wakeful. So these are three states. Now there is a fourth state which normal human beings are not aware of, which can be called super consciousness. So this is something called Turiya state, or the state of Samadhi. Now the mantra drashtas or seers are called that because the Vedic mantra has literally appeared to them in the form of a deity in this state of super consciousness. So it is not that the deity appears in front of my eyes. No, these are, this embodiment, this visualization is not possible in the normal state of human consciousness. And because we do not have access to this super conscious state, this mental state right now, it is attainable given enough practice and time by anybody. That's the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. You are not denied any level of knowledge, you just need to work for it. But right now, since we do not have that level of consciousness, we have to make do with sounds and words. Now, very important point, Vedic shlokas should not be translated using a simple dictionary. If at all you get a correct meaning, that would be one of the meanings, and that is not the complete set of meanings that are actually available. There are layers of meanings. And Vedic shlokas are referred to as Trayi Vidya. Continue with that second point. Vedas, in fact, are referred to as Trayi Vidya. Why is that so? Trayi obviously means three. There are three kinds of shlokas present in the Vedas: the Ruks, the Ruk, the Yajus, and the Sama. Now, question you will ask is, where is Atharva? So I'm not talking about the names of the Vedas, but the kinds of shlokas or mantras that are present in the Vedas. Ruk basically is poetry, basically praise in poetry. Yajus is basically prose, and Sama is basically something which is sung. The Samaveda typically takes mantras from the Rig Veda, and they are, those mantras are sung in a specific way. So Sama basically means a kind of singing. So these are three kinds of mantras that are available in the Vedas, because of which Vedas are referred to as Trayi Vidya. That is one reason. Another reason is, again, continue with the second point, there are layers of meanings. There are at least three levels of meanings: Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika. What these are, let's not cover right now, but basically there are levels of meanings, and because of at least these two reasons, Vedas are referred to as the Trayi Vidya, the threefold knowledge. Now, extremely important point, for Vedic shlokas, printing is practically of not that great use, because sound is extremely important. The impact of the Vedic chanting can change, may have no effect, can actually have negative effects depending on how correctly or improperly, in fact, the mantras are chanted. So there are certain, let's say, ways in which this sound is actually factored in. So varna or letter, the actual alphabet, the actual letter that is pronounced. Then there is something called swara. When you have heard Vedic chanting, you may have noticed that the pitch changes, the tone goes up and down, right? that is the swara. Then matra is the duration of something which is said. Balam basically is the emphasis that is given. Sama and Santana are basically referred to, I don't have the specific details of this, however, related to uniformity and continuity. So these are 6 uh, factors or parameters as far as sound is concerned. Because of these, because of the importance of sound, the Vedas from time immemorial have always been passed down orally. The Guru teaches them orally, the Shishya hears them and gets them by heart. Because of this, the Vedas are also called, the Veda is called the Shruti because it is heard. It's not passed down by writing something. You don't take notes. You actually spend years and decades hearing these mantras from a guru and attaining a level of mastery. Now, how is this purity, the sanctity of sound preserved? uh, let me just give out a list. I'll not, in fact, I am not aware of the specific meanings of all of these. However, the lot of people may have heard of something called ghana jata, or something people may have heard. And in fact, a lot of people may have heard of this term called ghana party. So basically, these indicate uh, the means by which the sanctity of sound, of utterance, the intonation, the swara, the matra, the bala, the sama, all of these, the santana, all of these, how are these actually preserved? These are certain methods. Now just imagine, it is a little difficult for us to even get this list by heart. So there are people who literally spend years and decades of their life attaining a level of mastery using these things. By the way, the Ghana Patha is the highest level of mastery, at least as far as this particular list is concerned, the way I understand. And this literally takes decades. So when I talk to people, right, I hear this statement that uh, in Hinduism, knowledge was limited to a certain section of people. It was not democratized, so to say. Now, when you look at whatever has been shared till now, the divinity that is assigned to the Vedic shlokas, the importance that is given to sound and not just the letter of the Veda, and the difficulty involved in passing this information untarnished through the ages, these are all reasons why a certain section of the society was told, this is your job. You need to live a life of sanctity. Please note, not a life of luxury. They were supposed to live a life of sanctity and dedicate their lives to attaining this mastery over the Vedas and ensuring these are passed down without changes, without being tarnished. And this is but one reason why Vedic knowledge was so-called restricted to a certain section of the society. That being said, today, with the prevalence of the printed word, the Vedas are accessible to literally everybody, anybody who has this interest. So this is no longer a valid reason, or this is no longer a valid statement that the Veda is no longer accessible to everybody. At least the printed word is there. If somebody is really interested, they can actually access that knowledge and kind of familiarize themselves with, say, a more in-depth knowledge. So I will end this particular video by just asking one request. I hope I was able to convey through these slides the effort, the time, the blood and sweat needed to attain a certain level of mastery over Vedic shlokas. So the bare minimum that we can do is, when we see a Vedic scholar, I'm not talking about a class of society, please don't mistake me, I'm not saying that. When we meet a Vedic scholar, somebody, especially somebody like a Ghanapati, there is a certain level of respect we need to give to that person. This person has literally dedicated his life to passing this knowledge to the next generation without it being tarnished. And these people are not paid like a corporate citizen. They are not extremely wealthy people necessarily. A lot of them live in maybe middle to lower class kind of circumstances. So the bare minimum that we can do is to give a certain amount of respect to these people for the effort that they are putting in safeguarding our heritage and our literature. I will attempt to cover some more about Sanatana Dharma related literature in the forthcoming video or videos, depending on the amount of information that I can dig up. Second aspect is that from this video onwards, I will also try to share a few references, especially in the references section for this video. There is a URL. Please do visit that for more information. On top of that, please keep your feedback coming. It could be feedback, comments, suggestions, queries, questions, bouquets, brickbats, whatever they are. Please give your feedback. To the extent possible, I'll try to go through comments which may come and try to incorporate that feedback. If there are certain queries, and in case I'm able to answer them, I'll also try to add small section in the video wherever I can do that particular aspect. Thank you.